Clicks, likes, impressions, downloads, you've probably reported on those numbers a million times. And you may think that they look nice in a report. They may make you feel busy. But here's the question: do they really matter to your CEO or to your CFO or to your sales team? The truth is, most of the metrics that marketers report on are simply vanity metrics. They look good on paper, but they don't carry any weight in the boardroom. And if you're trying to earn a seat at the table, you have to shift from vanity metrics to revenue metrics. So today, we're going to talk about exactly how to do that, what to measure, how to report it, and how to start speaking the language of the C suite. This is Spark Sessions, the podcast designed to help B2B marketers stop reacting and start leading. I'm Lori Tyler. I'm your host. And after 25 years, in B2B marketing, I've been both inside global organizations and I'm now a fractional CMO. I've learned that the difference between being seen as tactical and being respected as strategic often comes down to one thing, and it's the metrics that you choose to measure and to share. So, true story. I have had dreams about meetings where marketing is going through their quarterly review and their slides are full of numbers. But the dream quickly turns into a nightmare because the numbers were full of website traffic and social media followers and email open rates. And, you wake up from the dream and you realize, ugh, this is happening in real life too. This is not good. There is a time and a place for those numbers, but they're usually best kept within your own marketing circles. The problem is when you focus on numbers that the C suite just doesn't care about. And as a marketer, you know better than anyone that you have to know your audience and you have to customize your messaging to them. And your own leadership team is no different. If you're reporting email open stats to the CFO, you know what's going to happen. They are simply going to glaze over and they're going to ask you, well, how did this drive revenue? How did this contribute to our bottom line? And I've seen those moments play out a million times. And as marketers, there's no doubt that we are working hard. We have constant campaigns in development. We have campaigns going out the door. We're meeting with product to understand the next release. We're putting a fire drill out at the event. We're being pulled into the next sales meeting. The web page is throwing a 404. It is nonstop. And then the next thing you know, it's time for your monthly review or your quarterly review. And you just want to throw some slides together and call it a day because you're too busy working to report on what you're working on. And I vividly remember one time where I actually had to write a report on the reports that I had to write. Like, who has time for any of this? And that's when it's so easy to reach for those metrics that are just easily accessible and, quick and easy to put together, those vanity metrics. But when you lean on those to report the impact that you're making, that's when marketing loses credibility. The good news is you can flip the script. You can move from being the marketer that reports activities to being the marketer or the leader that proves impact. And I promise you, it is well worth your precious time. And truly, once you get the reporting metrics set up the way you need them, it will be a much easier lift each time you have to report on your results and put that monthly or quarterly review together. So, how do you make that shift from vanity metrics to revenue metrics. I am going to break it down for you in 5 steps. The first step, vanity metrics versus revenue metrics. Let's define it. What are we talking about here? So, vanity metrics are things like I was talking about earlier, the likes, the clicks, the impressions, followers, open rates. They tell you that the activity happened, but not whether or not it mattered. Revenue metrics are things like the number of opportunities created, the pipeline that was influenced, close one revenue, deal size associated with your marketing. These are things that tie directly to business impact. So, as an example, instead of saying things like, our email had a 40% open rate, try saying, our email generated 15 new opportunities that added $300,000 to the pipeline. So, do you see the difference there? Obviously. So, one tells a story of activity, the other tells a story of impact. And obviously, we need to get the guardrails in place in order to get those metrics. And we'll talk about that. And that's what gets a lot of us stuck. And we're tracking these vanity metrics because, like I said, they are easy to measure and we do need them. So instead of throwing them out altogether, the job is to translate them. And that's step 2. We need to build your translation layer. We need to be talking the language of the C suite. So again, don't just say, we had 1,000 webinar registrants. Translate it to, of the 1,000 people who registered, 200 matched our ICP, our ideal customer profile, and 15 became qualified opportunities for sales. Now you're moving from volume to value. And of course, you're going to be keeping track of those 15 and what happens with them because with time, you're going to want to report on, well, how many of those became sales accepted? And then how many moved into opportunity stage? And then of those, how many were closed won and how much revenue was tied to those deals? And that's when it gets really exciting and really fun. Step 3, in order to get there, is partnering with sales and with finance. Because if you want credibility, you certainly cannot do this alone. So first, meet with your sales team. Talk about and define what a qualified lead actually looks like. So not what marketing hopes is qualified or what sales feels like following up on, but it's a shared, documented definition. And then work with finance, or it might be RevOps, depending on your organization. But you want to agree on how marketing contributes to revenue. So things like, are you measuring sourced pipeline, influenced pipeline, both? And what does that mean in your organization? When marketing, sales, finance, RevOps are all aligned on the numbers, you start to build trust. And suddenly your reports aren't just marketing's story, they're the company's story. And once I have those conversations, I always document it and I write a sales and marketing SLA, a service level agreement. And the SLA documents things like what qualifies as a marketing qualified lead. How quickly is sales going to commit to following up on the MQL? What happens when a lead is accepted or rejected? And how are opportunities attributed back to marketing? So this becomes your operating contract. It removes ambiguity. It protects marketing. And it becomes this shared definition of success. And we'll talk a lot more about the SLA and really what to do if sales is saying they don't love your leads in the next episode. There is so much to talk about this. So don't panic now that I'm talking about, putting your guardrails in place and how to measure and SLAs. Like we're going to get to all that. You don't have to boil the ocean right here and now. So back to the steps. Step 4 is to operationalize your metric. So this is essentially setting up the plumbing, right? You have to make it measurable. And this is where your automation, your marketing automation platform and your CRM, where those come into play. So whether that's Salesforce or HubSpot or any other one, you want your systems set up so that you can track all of your marketing campaigns, all of your leads, how many are converted to marketing qualified lead, which have become sales accepted leads. You need to track the opportunity and the revenue. And that means that every single campaign is created in your CRM, and every lead is tied back to a campaign, and every lead has a clear status showing. And then every opportunity shows its original source and what was the influencing marketing campaign that eventually led to or influenced that opportunity. And when you have all this plumbing in place, that's when you can stop guessing. So you're no longer saying, well, we think this campaign worked. You're able to say, this campaign generated, X number of MQLs and X number of sales accepted leads and so many opportunities. And then you can actually contribute it to real revenue that's in the sales pipeline. So again, you don't have to, don't stress out about it. We don't need to make it perfect. What I want you to do is start small and just pick one campaign. Make sure it's tagged correctly. Follow it all the way through. And then do it again with the next campaign. And then over time, you are building a system that produces revenue reporting automatically for you. And again, there's tons of mechanics that go into setting all this up. There's stakeholder conversations that need to happen, but it is something that you can't miss, because if you do this, when you do this, and let's say you're a Salesforce organization, all of your reporting is going to come from the reports that are set up in Salesforce, which is the same place that sales manages their pipeline. So now you have marketing and sales working together, working in a shared system, working on a shared pipeline, and no one can question your results because Salesforce is now your single source of truth. If you have no idea how to set up a reporting system for campaign attribution, do not panic. That too, we're going to cover in the next episode. So, last step here, step 5. So, we're talking about making the shift from vanity metrics to revenue metrics. Step 5 is using the right vocabulary. So, the C-suite, as you would imagine, has their own language. It is not a secret language. You hear these words. These are in your vernacular as well. It's pipeline. It's customer acquisition cost. It's lifetime value. Oh, EBITDA. EBITDA is one that they love. So when you come in talking about clicks and impressions, you sound tactical. And if you walk in talking about, well, you're probably not going to walk in talking about EBITDA, granted. But if you walk in talking about pipeline contribution and revenue impact, you sound strategic. It's the same work. It's the same campaigns that you're working on today. It's different language. It's a spin. It's results in a totally different perception. And this is why I'm so passionate about this topic, because when you start reporting in revenue terms, something really interesting happens. Leadership starts asking you different questions. Instead of asking you, well, how many emails did you send? They start asking, well, where should we invest more? And instead of asking you, well, what campaigns are going on next month? They're going to start asking, what's going to help drive pipeline? That is a fundamental shift. You are moving from being the person who executes marketing tasks to being the person who helps shape growth decisions for the business. And that is what earning a seat at the table actually looks like. Now, I want to make something clear. This does not mean you can stop caring about vanity metrics altogether. They do serve a purpose. You do still need them. Open rates help you figure out subject lines, and click through rates help you understand engagement happening with your content. But those numbers, again, need to mostly stay inside of marketing conversations. They are diagnostic metrics. And once you start separating the two in your own mind, your reporting is going to become so much more intentional. So, here's a simple way to think about it. Inside marketing, you can look at, how is this performing? When you report up, you want to be answering or asking, how is this impacting the business? So again, same work. It's the same data. It is different framing. And that framing is everything. So again, I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that is completely normal. I don't want you to have to feel like you have to go rebuild, your entire reporting infrastructure overnight. That is not going to happen. That's not the goal here. But the goal can be to start with one campaign, just one campaign. Pick a campaign that you're already running and map the campaign from MQL, or start with lead, from lead to MQL to opportunity, and see what breaks and see where it breaks and fix that. And then go to the next one. Progress beats perfection every single time. And over the next few months, you're going to look back and you're going to realize that you've quietly been building a revenue reporting engine. And when that happens, marketing stops being a cost center in people's minds. It starts being a growth driver, which is what it should have been all along. So, big takeaway from today: vanity metrics make you look busy. Revenue metrics make you look strategic. So this week, take one report that you're working on and rewrite the slide. Translate one vanity metric into a revenue focused statement. Just try it and see what happens. So next time, as promised, we are going to go a lot deeper into some of the biggest friction points that are tied to this exact topic. What to do when sales says they don't like your leads, and how do you come back from that? And how do you rebuild trust between sales and marketing? And so much of it has to do with building that service level agreement and getting your campaigns set up and your reporting functions set up in your CRM. So it's going to be a really fun one. I hope you find your way back here. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me today. If you liked this episode, please consider giving it a review and also subscribe to my channel. I am Lori Tyler, and this is Spark Sessions.